Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, June 13th, 2022. We're almost halfway through the year. And let me tell you, as you all know, and I've been reading your comments on the side before we started, it's hot. It's hot. And I think it's just going to continue on. I was looking at the temperatures here in Atlanta area. Currently, it's showing 94 degrees. And of course, that's at 7 o'clock at night, right? And it's showing throughout the next, all till Friday, highs of 96, 97, 97, 95. And then next Wednesday, a high of 99. Yeah, summer's here. Summer's here. I know earlier I had looked on, I have a thermometer on my back porch, and it's shaded. It is not directly in the sun. And it was reading right at 99 or 100 degrees on the back porch. So yeah, it's plenty hot. We all need to be careful going out and doing things, making sure we're hydrated, and trying to avoid the sun as much as we can at this point. I've said it before, I like being warm. I don't like being cold, and I still feel that way. I just hate being cold. But you also, there are the heat extremes that are difficult to deal with as well. The nice part is right now, in the shop, and thankfully earlier this year I insulated that back wall. That has made a big difference in here. Currently it's about 78 degrees in the shop, so that's pretty good. Could be a lot worse. I used to work out here with just the door open and fans blowing and sweating like crazy, and now at least I can come in here and do some things and be comfortable. So if you've been here before, you already know the routine. We tend to talk about classic cars, hopefully, focus on classic cars. Sometimes we talk about different things. Sometimes we might talk about food, movies. I try to avoid any of the politics stuff. That'll just get you in trouble. So I try to avoid all that. But I think you all know where I stand as far as, things. So anyway, if you're new here, I welcome questions. I try to answer your questions if you have something or a topic or something like that. And if I can't answer your question, there's usually a good group of people right over there in the chat box, pretty knowledgeable as well, and they can help out. So if you got a good question, you may get a bell. A good answer, you may get a bell. Because your name is Dave, you may get a bell. There's no real rhyme or reason anymore. The bell is just kind of a reward system. Yeah, I want you to join in and be part of it. If you want to be part of this live stream, let me know. Send me an email, and we can, get you on. Or if you have some pictures of something you're working on and you want to share those as well, takes me a minute to get the email, and process it. But generally, I can add pictures to the live stream, and that usually works out pretty well. In fact, as I'm thinking about it at the moment, I'm going to delete some of the ones from last week because it just fills up the inventory space, whatever you want to call it. And when I try to upload, sometimes it just doesn't say there's no room. So I'm going to delete some of those right now. Okay. Let's see who's here. Right off the top, Jerry checking in from the Money Pit in Middle Tennessee. So I'll give Jerry a bell for being here first. He was here nice and early. Thank you for being here, Jerry. Steve Grimes, good evening all from steamy South Central PA. Yeah, I'm sure it's hot there as well. Terry Keithley, hello everyone. 98 degrees, hot here in West Central Illinois. Please hit the thumbs up and like button for Barry. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Troy, good evening all. We hit 100 with a heat index of 120. Too hot for me. I hope everyone else is cooler. Yeah, I don't know what the heat index is right here in Georgia. I mean, you're on the coast, so I'm sure that affects it as well. Thank you, Troy, for being here. Roger checking in. Greetings from next door. Glad you're here, Raj. Robert, afternoon all. It's only been 101 since noon today. Much cooler than the weekend. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to deal with. Charlie Seidelman. Hello all. Don't know how you guys in the Southwest handle the heat and get anything done. Yeah, Yeah, it's always been a challenge. I'm so thankful that I don't know how many years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, I put in that mini split system out here. Best thing I've done to the shop other than spraying the foam insulation in the roof and then of course insulating the rest of the shop. I still lose or get heat from this door. I've shown it before where I've in the past put up tarps in to create like a heat buffer, and I haven't done that this year yet. I just keep forgetting to put it up. But yeah, it's tough to do stuff in the heat anymore. Troy saying to Robert, I'm not coming to your place. Time to head north for the summer. Yeah. I don't know how far north you need to go, Troy. I mean, it's hot all over the place. And how are you going to get there? We're enjoying the highest inflation in, since 82, I think they said. And the price of gas is just ridiculous. But we all know why that's happening, so let's just move on. Nandu, good evening, Barry and everyone. Glad you're here, Nandu. Robert, I'm moving to Georgia where it's nice and cool. Yeah. I'll give you. It's cooler in here though, I know, than in your shop. So in that sense, that's true. Nandu, Barry, I like how the grill turned out. Yeah, me too. I talk about it in the video that it was a Shelby style grill. It's meant for the fiberglass front end. And I don't honestly know how those things were attached back then. Because if you look at that front end, there is no tabs, there's nothing there to hold anything. It's just kind of, a panel. So I don't know if you had to do extra work to make it fit or make it stay there. I don't know. And when I first bought the thing, I thought, well, it's a Shelby style grill. When I ordered it from NPD, I didn't realize it was actually meant for a Shelby. My mistake. Somebody else had commented on the video that a 67, I think, actually has I think they have like an actual honeycomb style grill. But I already had this one, and I wanted to try and use it and make it work, and it worked. And I'm very happy with it. Trying to get all the angles and stuff. Sometimes you have to sweat that stuff. It's like, is this going to work? But it worked out. So I'm very happy with it as well. Thank you. Jeff McKinsey. So is the Camaro on hold? It is. It's on hold, but it's temporary hold. So what I mean, I'm trying to get these panels from AMD, and hopefully they send the panels that they have in stock so that I can start doing some work with that. I've also been in contact with Mr. Fireman. Thankfully, we had a phone conversation, and he's already given me some measurements that I can compare to his car. He's going to give me some more measurements. Well, actually will help me dictate where the roof is, where it should be. So right now, I don't know what that was. Right now, AMD has I think they have the deck filler panel and the tail panel in stock. And next month, they're supposed to get the floor pan, because I'm replacing the floor pan as well. And then the quarters, the roof panel, it'll be late in the year. So I'll get done what I can. In the meantime, I have other things I want to work on or need to work on. I mentioned it in my Patreon video. I have a friend who has a 56 Chevy that we painted and did all the bodywork to years ago at the body shop. And he wants me to put a straight axle front end under it. So that's another thing that I will be taking on. That's kind of a shorter project. Hopefully it shouldn't take weeks to do, obviously. But I have to do precise measuring with that. So I need to find locations on the original frame that I can say, okay, this is a dedicated spot that I can use as a reference point. And when I make my cuts, then I can set the new one in place and back up those dimensions, kind of thing. So it's always a good idea, anytime you're doing something like that, where you're cutting out a frame or sectioning something, to get some cross measurements and get some depth measurements, and have a little notepad of saying, okay, this from here to here it's 10 inches. When I put the new piece in, it needs to be 10 inches, that sort of thing. So that'll be another thing coming. I know he ordered the straight axle kit, and it is, I think they said it has a lead time of 3 weeks. So hopefully they get that built for him, and then they send it our way. So that'll be coming up. Dave Conville, good evening all. Look, there's Dave. Give you the first Dave bell. Glad you're here. Simone, hi Barry, Robert, and chat. Hello from Plymouth, UK. Glad you're here, Simone. Hope all is well with you. Charlie, Barry, thanks for the Joe Daddy's Garage sticker. I'd proudly paste it to the inside lid of my tool chest. Good. Glad your package arrived, Charlie. I should say, the sticker. I'm glad you got it. Because I've also mailed out some hats recently, so I have to think. Oh, I have to remember who got what. But yeah, I remember you getting a sticker now. Robert says the grill really looks good. I'm in agreement. I mean, there's been some other suggestions that, and I don't feel it's necessary, but I understand where they're coming from. Where I'd bent the flange back, and somebody had suggested taking some rod or something and welding it to the edge of the expanded metal, and that way you kind of protect yourself if you have to reach down in there. You don't, won't cut your arm or something. And I get that, but I don't. For me, I don't feel it's necessary. And then also where the trim that goes on the end where it interacts, that they had suggested, putting tabs or bolts in there. Again, I don't know that it's really necessary. It's not going anywhere. Everything's kind of in a fixed location. So, but yeah, I'm really, really happy with that grill. Robert saying hi to Simone. And Simone, I'm sorry I missed your recent films, Barry. I have been so busy with the Cortina. Well, I hope you're making good progress. I don't know where you're at currently in the project, but I hope you're making good progress. Mr. Fireman, I love Camaros. I'll give you a bell for that. I am glad you're here. I was just talking about you a minute ago. I don't know if you were in for that or not. Robert says there he is. Yep. And again, if anybody's interested in joining the stream, whether it be Mr. Fireman, he could join the stream if he wants. Just have to send me an email. And if you're at all interested, there's an email at the bottom of the screen. I've had other people send me pictures and stuff as well. And usually, sometimes it works fine, sometimes it doesn't. But you got to have the Joe Daddy's with the S, no apostrophe, garage at gmail.com. And I'll leave that up there for a minute if anybody wants to consider joining me. Jerry says, I have the fender aprons welding in. Need to weld the parts from the apron to the firewall to weld in. Okay. Yeah, need to weld the parts from the apron to the firewall to weld in. Okay, you're talking about the little channel pieces on top? I assume that's what you're talking about, the little kind of connector between the top of the cowl and the apron. I don't know what those are actually called. I was reviewing a video because, it's amazing that some of my old videos seem to be getting more interest now. And I don't know what's driving it, but I've had several people looking at the 1935 or 36 Dodge truck that I redid. We did at the body shop. People looking at that, getting interest in it. And then on the 70 Fastback that I did years ago at the shop, some comments were being put up on that. And so somebody had asked in that particular video, I was doing the cowl on the 70, and they said, what was the name of that tool that you were using? And I was like, what tool? I went back and looked at the video. And the sequence in the video was I was taking the spot face drill tool. It's actually something we had at the body shop. It looks like a drill, but it's got a hook on the end of it where you can put it behind a pinch weld, and then it plunges out the drill, and you can set the depth on it to where you can drill just the top half of the countersink. And I was like, man, I missed that tool. I forgot that I had that. But apparently my partner has it or had it. Trusted partner, friend, yeah. Anyway, so I was looking at that and it said Dent Fix, I think is the name of the company. So I went ahead and looked up Dent Fix, sent them a link to it, and then while I was on, they actually sell them on Amazon. Not a cheap tool. It's over $400. But then I looked and there was another one that was a similar design that was like $250 or something like that, maybe $200, depending on what options you got with it. So, but what I was alluding to is the piece that Jerry is talking about. There is a little bracket that goes between the cowl and the upper or the rear apron, and it welds in multiple positions or multiple places. And in that video, I pointed out that the aftermarket ones, much like all the sheet metal that we normally get, I could take the aftermarket one and set it on top of the original one. That's how oversized they had made the thing. And sometimes I wonder, when they send off the something to be made or be copied, are they actually trying to copy what's there, or are they trying to make something that would like use that piece as a template and then make something on top of it? What is that? Okay, something moved in here. But make another piece on top of that. I was kind of curious about that. The other thing that makes me think about that is when I was doing the Mystique Mustang and I did the 65, quarter panel, and the owner had provided me a patch to put on the there we go, air hose reel. Okay, but he provided me a patch panel, and I went to use that patch panel, and I couldn't, because it was meant to be like a crash panel. And what that really means is if a quarter had rusted out, and rather than fix it like you should, they would just take this piece and put over top of it and weld it on, and then build body filler over top of it and say, yeah, it's fixed. Take it. Pay up. So I ended up not using that piece. I took actually sectioned out a 80% quarter skin and used that because it was the correct shape and matched the shape of the car. So anyway, I know I'm getting kind of bouncing around there, but it makes me think about some of those pieces and parts that we are so happy to have. Simone, I finally fitted my new axle, springs, and arms, and I made it to a big event in Wales, but the wheel alignment is slightly out, the prop shaft bearing is bad, and my clutch thrust bearing has failed. Well, I mean, it started off really good. It sounded great, and then it sounded really bad. So, yeah, that's unfortunately, it sounds like you're going to be taking things back apart and redoing some things. But I'm glad you got the axle in and the springs and arms. But yeah, there's the bearing and thrust bearing, not good. Not good. Okay, so Robert was saying the air hose reel, and that's makes sense because sometimes it'll stop and you think it's where it should be, and apparently it wasn't, so it bumped it up a bit. Simone says I can fix it. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. That was something else I was going to mention. I've talked about in the Mustang video as well, that I was not having, or I didn't have any luck with the fuel gauge working. And also I was having trouble with the horns, and I think I've resolved most of that. I've discovered, as I should have gone to the instructions, right? Because the Dakota Digital system, they have, the gauges are digital. They're electronic. And this is where I got a little confused, because out of the box, if I have a gauge cluster for a 68 Mustang, to me, everything should be plug and play to a 68 Mustang, meaning the gauge sensor, right? If I'm using a 68 dash, it should be tuned to a Mustang. Well, it turns out it's not. what they do is they must have a um, one end you have a sending unit, and we'll say receiving unit for the gauge, right? So they must make one sensor that fits in all of their different clusters, which makes sense from a money aspect. You don't want to buy various types, whatever, for different things. So apparently, when you get one of those, the gauge itself has to be calibrated to whatever sending unit you have. And by that, what I mean is it's not so much saying there's not like a selection of saying this is part number X or Y or Z. What it tells you, if you follow the instructions, you go to the setup of your gauge cluster, and you can go through a menu. It has all kinds of stuff on there. You can set miles per hour, kilometers per hour. You can set overheat warnings. You can set speed warnings. You can set tach warnings. All kinds of different things like that. Now, you maybe want to put in a shift light, I think, if you were so inclined. But the gauge itself, you have to go into the book and say, is this a Chevy or a GM Type 6 or GM Type 8 or whatever the configuration was, or Dodge something. And then it said Ford pre 1980 and earlier is what it said. 1980 and earlier. And then it said 80 and later. So you had to go through and select which one you had. And when I did that, the gauge worked. So I know we talked about it before, whether you need an extra ground or different things. And apparently it was just a matter of calibrating the gauge to the sending unit in a sense. So I did that, and it worked fine. And then a friend had stopped by, and I was checking out the horns. And, you know, when you're trying to do stuff by yourself, sometimes it's a challenge. So I had him squeeze the horn button together, and then I went out and checked, and I do have power coming to the horns. So all that system is fine. I think the problem, as somebody had pointed out before, I think Ricard had pointed out, that there's too much paint on the horns, and they're not getting ground. So that's the next thing on my to-do list, is to clean up those horns and get that in place. Now, one other thing. I took the car for a drive yesterday. Me and my wife went for a drive. First time we've had it out. First time she's ridden in the car. Because, you know, you want to impress her. I don't know if she was impressed or not. Because she's not used to driving or riding in a car that old, let's say. You know, because your creature comforts, the modern vehicles ride smoother. And I will say the Mustang, for whatever reason, the back end of the car actually rides kind of rough. I mean, I don't know if it's the combination of shocks and springs, because the springs are stock, and the shocks are nothing fancy. So I don't know if it's just riding kind of rough. But we drove it to where we were going, only about 10 miles, not going far. And I noticed real quick the gauge, the temperature was going up. Now, mind you, I put in the aluminum radiator, electric fans. They're kicking on. They're doing their thing. And I was like, this car's getting hot, which it should not be getting hot at all. And so it kept on climbing to where it was reading almost 210 on the gauge. And I was kind of panicking a little bit. I mean, I had the AC on in the car, and that was about it. So we get to our destination. We were there for a couple hours. The car cooled down a bit. And actually, I'd messaged Robert about it as well. I said, man, the car's still running hot. And he said, check your timing, you know, if it's too advanced. So I did retard the timing a little bit. It ran better. And then I drove it home. Well, the temperature still climbed. And I thought, man, this is not good. So I ended up shutting off the AC, turning on the heat, opened the windows, and was just trying to blow heat into the car to try to keep it from getting overheated. So then we get home, I park it, I'll leave it run. I went and got my digital electronic laser pointer, thermometer. The highest temperature I could find under the hood on the cooling system was 174 degrees. So basically coming out of the water neck at the top, where the hose comes out and then turns and goes to the right and goes to the upper water neck, at that turn, I had 174 degrees. I'm like, man, what is going on? So everywhere else on the water neck itself, I was reading 168. On the lower hose, like 140. I'm like, well, this is cooling fine. It's working. Why is my gauge so high? Again, let's go look at the book. So I went to the book, and I have a troubleshooting section, and I started. Oh, hold on a second. So I have Jerry wants to join, so I'm going to get Jerry on here in just a second. I see you, Robert. I'm going to let Jerry get on here first. Let me do this. Give me just 1 second. Send him a link. Actually, I could send one to Robert as well. We could have. I'll just send him a link as well. We might be able to have all three of us going at the same time. Anyway, and Simone sent me some pictures. So let me download those quick. So I go back and I look at the instructions, right? And it says if you're getting a higher temperature on the gauge than what you are under the hood, then it's probably a ground issue. And I thought, well, it said you may need to have, and it talked about a heavy ground strap from the battery to the block. And then it said you may need to have a ground from the engine block to the body. And I started thinking about it. I'm like, do I have one of those? Because I don't remember putting in a ground strap from the block to the body. So it very well may be that the resistance is not what it should be on the sensor coming out of the block. So that's something else I need to look at and try to get addressed. But I feel better knowing that when I check the temperatures at the engine with my gauge, my thermometer, that it wasn't super high. So, all right, let me see here. Ron, hey Barry, checking in from the Tri-Cities in Northeast Tennessee. Glad you're here, Ron. Troy, I was just telling a friend about your Camaro project. He's looking for a solid car to finished. He asked if you have the interior for it. I do have seats for it. Yes, I have seats for it. I think that's about all I have. I don't have any, carpet, but I do have the seats. So yes. So you can tell him I do at least have those. And I don't know what else I have for it. I know I have all the, all the sheet metal stuff. So yeah, I at least have the seats. So let me know if there's anything else you need to know about that. Rick, sorry I'm late. Can we start over? Nope. Glad you're here, Rick. All right, Simone. Let me pull this down real quick. She sent some photos. I need to pull these up real quick. And we'll see what we got. Okay, so there's the Cortina. So if you're not, I know for us it looks like it's a reverse image photo, but over in the UK that's the norm. That's how it's supposed to look. And I know basically that's like a Pinto engine is what's in that car, from my understanding. I'm not sure if it's what size that one is. I'm sure Simone can tell us. So I think in the U.S. we had a 2,000 cc Pinto motor and a 2300, and I don't remember what size the one in that car is specifically. So here it is, I guess, at a show. Looks good. It's always nice to see stuff like that. And then out on a drive. So I see. Now, Simone, I'm going to have to ask you, what does that say? Where's that at? Because I don't know what SAFLE DW, is that DWS? I don't know what that means. Is it a parking space? Maybe for a bus? Could be at a bus stop. I'm going to guess it's a bus stop. Anybody? Anybody? Let me know. Okay, so Simone says it's a 1600cc. Okay. So my guess is that's a bus stop. So we'll let Simone tell us if that's a bus stop or not. Let's see. Troy. Good information on the Dakota gauges. I plan to put that in my 65. Yeah, I mean, they're fantastic gauges, but, you know, read the instructions. Oh, okay, Simone says in Wales they have their own language. It's a bus stop. Okay. They have their own language. What is... Okay. I'll just take your word for it. I don't know. All right. Hey, Robert's here. Let's see what Robert's doing.
Okay, first of all, how noisy is the air conditioner?
I don't hear anything.
Okay, good, because it is actually quite noisy.
Well, but then again, I don't hear anything.
I've been told that I don't hear certain things too sometimes, but I think I'm just growing my selective hearing.
Yeah. Yeah, there's moments when you're wrong.
No, I'm never wrong. I'm just mistaken a few times.
So how are things out there? What are you getting done?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Very little.
Well, it doesn't look like you're sweating. So
well, okay, it is down to on the north side of the shop is 89 degrees. On this side, it now shows 90. And when I came out here and checked that earlier, well, I've got the sensor on the north side. You know, it's on the north side. Well, this one's up against the wall, so you don't trust it. But it went out of its mind. It just said hi. You know, instead of a temperature, it says hi. You know, its little brain melted and just said hi, because I don't know what the temperature is.
Like when you get on a scale and it says no.
The good thing is the humidity is 24% with the thing running, so it's dry as a bone in here. So
that's a plus.
Yeah, I mean it's hot and miserable, but you know.
Well, when you get the humidity down, that's half the battle, really.
Yeah, and the other thing is I actually got my little cabinet with all my paint and stuff over here. I had my fan sitting on the stool blowing in there to keep that stuff cool, because it's and I don't want to bring it in the house because I don't care how well you seal it up, it still leaks, it still it stinks. You know how it is.
You'll be wrong.
Well, but even that, you know, some of it, you know,
yeah, I know.
You know, it's like when
I wouldn't do that either.
You open the door, it's like, I don't care how good you seal stuff, it still leaks, and I don't want to smell it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I noticed that now with the way that my shop is insulated, I can come out here if I don't start the AC in the morning. I come out later in the day, and it's still rather comfortable in here.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps it cool.
Well, that's a good bit of wall that you insulated over there. I mean, that's a lot of square footage when you had it all up.
I didn't realize that there would be that much of of an improvement.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I did it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And my problem is like, you know, it's a metal building, so all those beams that you see on the ceiling are touching the outside steel. So all that heat, it's like 40-foot radiators and those things, when I've used a temperature gun on it, they'll be 130 degrees.
Oh yeah.
So that's radiating all that heat. And there are times that I can, if I were sitting here, I can feel the heat just radiating down on the top of my head.
So what you need is a buffer, like a secondary roof, to act as a buffer.
And at one time, you know that the 4-inch big sheets of the commercial foam, you know, commercial buildings, you know, that stuff used to be able to get used really cheap all the time. And the best solution would be take the roof off. You screw down a layer of that 4-inch foam. You put the roof back on. You're done. I mean, and that's where most of the heat comes from, is from the roof.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
the walls, I've got overhangs, so there's no direct sun on the outside. And then actually right now, most of the roof is covered by shade because I've got a tree at that end down there. Well, I call it a tree. It's a stick, but it's ugly. It's one of those that's just you want to cut it down, but in the afternoon it just puts this nice shade all across the roof.
It all helps.
So it does help. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, mine, I've got this, it's probably an 80-foot pine tree right behind the shop. And then
Mm-hmm.
behind that is other trees. So, of course, it's all well and good until that pine tree decides, hey, I'm done. And then, gives up and falls over.
Yeah, yeah, and that's and it's like my dad and I've talked about that before. It's like trees are great to have until you realize what it costs to cut the tree down when you have to cut it down, because it's enormous amounts of money. I mean,
Well, it's funny you mention that because there's a house about 3 houses up from me that recently sold. Now, it sold for quite a bit of money last year,
mm-hmm,
and it sold for a lot more money this year.
mm,
And nobody's done any. I don't know what's been done to it. New people have moved in there, and you don't know who anybody is, right? Somebody moves
yeah,
into your neighborhood, and I really don't know. I don't know who these people are yet, but I noticed they've got like a big dually truck. They've got an enclosed trailer. It's like, Well, then they had a GMC, like Sonoma or Chevy S10, like the squared off one.
mm-hmm,
It has racing slicks on the back of it. So I'm like,
mm,
wonder what they're up to. So that place has a shop behind it. It's probably 2/3 the size of my shop, maybe. I'm guessing. A guy used it for years. I kind of helped him put it together whenever he built the place. And we were coming through down the road the other day, and we saw this excavator on a track hoe on the back
mm-hmm.
of a big lowboy,
A big toy.
a big toy.
Yeah.
And so next thing I know, I'm hearing. I don't know what they're doing, but all the pine trees, which were probably 18-inch pine trees anyway, maybe even bigger, they ripped them all out of the backyard.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, are they going to make the shop bigger? What are they doing? Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
So they're still working on it, but I don't know what they paid to have those trees taken up, but I'm sure it was cheap.
Yeah, I know here, we don't have those big pine trees. We've got, where we're at, mostly oak trees. And our oak trees, they're pine tree, it's nice, just vertical stick. It's got branches on it. You could go up and make a couple of cuts and it just falls over nice and easy. Piece of cake to cut one down. Our oak trees, no, because they're snaggletooth all over the place.
Yep.
And this oak, it's post oak, which is, you can have a tree that's that big and it's 80 years old.
Oh,
It grows very slow. Its stuff is hard as a rock. It's heavy. And it's just, the ones that I've had to cut down, and you just start cutting, it's just, you do a little bit of cutting. It's like, chain's dull. It kills your chains. And it's just, but they're so gnarly trees that they're just difficult to cut down.
yeah. Simone saying good night. Good night, Simone.
Good night.
Rick
Yeah,
says,
there's some link there.
Rick says, nice. Talking to you, says, nice job with the blasting video.
I appreciate it. It was a low effort video. Let's put it that way.
Hey, as long as it worked. Let me go back up here a second. Roger says the AC isn't coming through the audio. It's good.
Okay.
So there you go. Yeah, I don't. All I hear is mine. I hear mine running. Over here. That's all I hear.
I've been told I need to get a mini split for out here, and I told her it's like the real issue is insulation. Because that's a 2-ton window unit. Yeah, it's 10 years old, but it still blows really cold air. It's just that if I don't insulate this, I need 5 tons of air conditioning. If I don't add to it, I need 5 tons for this time of year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, Crash Rider was talking about the picture that Simone had posted. I said I guessed it was a bus stop, and he said a small sign
Mm.
hanging there with a bus sort of gives it away. Okay. Well, whenever I was looking at the picture, what I was looking at was the uh, the big rectangle,
Yeah,
the
I
big
don't
yellow
understand.
the big yellow rectangle. I didn't notice there. I guess there is. Okay, there I see. Yeah, there's a bus on a pole. So yeah,
Yeah,
I was looking at the big yellow rectangle.
yeah, I was reading that and I don't understand Welsh, so yeah,
Well, apparently it's a different language. I didn't know they had a different language there. Who knew?
I don't know. Well, we've got how many English languages in this country?
Yeah,
You know, because everywhere you go, it's different.
yeah, yeah. There's all kinds of variables. Bass hunter. When you start to realize millions of trees are now hollow, you got to ask yourself why. Yeah, I mean that's a reasonable question to ask. I don't have an
Yeah,
answer, but
yeah.
I don't know
I don't
what's
know because
causing that.
it's like we've got one tree left in the backyard here that I would like to cut down. I don't want to cut this one down. I want to have somebody else cut it down. And the neighbor, you know, he had a tree cut down, and it's like he said, "Oh yeah, the guy only charged me like $350 for it." It's like, okay, if you have the other tree cut down, and he comes over, I want him to cut this one down for that price too. And if he just cut it down, put it on the ground, I will load it on his trailer for him at that price
Yeah.
because that's a deal. Because to call anybody else is going to be 2 grand or more.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm. Like I said, I have this eight. Like it's got to be at least 80 foot. It's the
Hmm.
biggest pine tree in the yard. It is. I would guess it's got to be at least 2 feet across,
Mm.
and that thing is way up there. And I'm like, please don't die.
Yeah.
You know, because if that thing falls on a garage, it's gonna land. It's gonna like almost touch my house. That's how big that
Hmm.
tree is, and that would be not pretty.
Well, that is a nice, pretty area you've got back behind the shop there.
Yeah. Oh
Because
yeah.
you got a
It's
number of trees. It's nice. It's a nice spot back there.
yeah. Crash Shutter says it's a small details account similar to Bodywork. Very true. Very true. Good point. And Bass Hunter says got to be safe or they will hurt you. Yeah, talking about
Oh yeah.
trees. Yeah. Well, you know, um, earlier this year we had I have 3 maple trees up front, and there was the one tree will put out a sap. You know, whatever
Hmm.
reason, kind of runs down the side. I was so happy because it does it every year, and I think what is there something this can be used for?
Hmm.
But I was so happy. My neighbor up the street, he's got 3 beehives, and I know it was his bees that were all over that tree. They
Hmm.
were going nuts for that sap. So I was like, cool, that's a good thing. Let them eat it up.
Well, our neighbors, the house on the other side of them was basically hollow. The tree was hollow. It was full of beehives. It was all bees that were in there, and that was. She said it was pretty expensive to have a bee somebody come out and collect the bees up and haul them off before they could cut the tree down.
Yeah,
And I knew somebody that had actually my kind of catty corner for my parents. They had a beehive in the wall of the house, and it said it took a long time to get them all out, and then to tear everything out, clean it, because it makes such a mess.
well, it's funny you mentioned that. I watched the video the other day. It was a little storage shed out behind somebody's house, and this professional comes out there, and they actually have a heat gun, a thermal imaging that they can
Hmm.
see where the bee hive is and everything.
Hmm.
And the people said, "Oh, we think it's only been here like 6 months, something like that, 3 to 6 months." And the guy was like panning across, and he was like, "No, no,
It's
this has been here a long time."
he's like, you just now noticed it.
Yeah. So he cut off the back 12 inches, let's say, of the floor,
Uh huh.
pulled it. It took all he could do to get it up and out of the floor, and then it was so cool to watch that. He took a box, like a big Home Depot cardboard box, and he cut a little square opening in it,
Hmm.
and he found the queen, put her in a little cage, and then put her inside of that box. And those little bees just marched all into that Home Depot box. when he was done, he said he had 42 pounds of bees
Wow.
that he put in that box, and then he had like 60 pounds of honey or something. It was impressive.
Mm.
Let's see. Well, Rick says
Oh,
Barry
Jerry
sounds
wants-
like
Yeah,
like nice. What?
I was just looking. If Jerry wants to get on here, let him on here.
Yeah, I think he says he needs to go, so let Robert talk. Okay, that's all right. Yeah, I sent him a link too, but I guess it worked out that
No,
he's got something to do, so I get it.
if I'm in the way, just push. You know, that's what I tell people if I'm in the store.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen him. He hasn't shown up on the bottom of my prompt, so
Oh, okay.
he didn't click on the link to join. So that's fine. That's fine. Rick says Barry sounds like a nice tree to decorate for Christmas. Yeah, you're welcome to come down. Yeah. Anybody that wants to climb that tree and hang some bulbs in it, you can take them down too, because I'm not climbing it. Let's see. Andy says, Robert, I can see your insulated door behind you is installation fire resistant. I need to insulate mine, but with welding, I'm trying to figure out the best, safest to use.
Okay. Well, as you can see, I mean that's the door right there, and what that insulation is the same insulation that's up here. And basically, on these metal buildings, it's just it's fiberglass with a
Like
it's
a
like a
plastic
ripstop.
sleeve?
It's a plastic ripstop nylon-ish kind of. It has the grid in it, you know, like ripstop nylon does, but it's a plastic and it's fire resistant. You know, it's enough to be where it's you know, it holds it in place, and it's nothing that can actually sustain a flame. And by such, I know because when stuff does splash over on it, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Well,
But-
the fiberglass itself shouldn't burn.
No, exactly.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, as long as you have, I mean, like what you could do in something like that, you might be able to put some like the paneling I put up in here.
Mhm.
You might be able to put that over top of that to act as a buffer
Yeah,
for any kind of sparks. You know, something simple like that.
yeah, or even just the what's the stuff? It has a name. The aluminum, like you put on a trailer. Like say you build a trailer, you use that thin white aluminum.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, you can buy that stuff and have it cut, and then just screw that right over top of it. You can do that.
That's not a bad idea either. Yeah.
I don't know what it is now, but it used to be not that expensive. But like everything else, who knows? You know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, when we bought the house, this building was almost brand new when we bought the house, and they had extra insulation from doing it, and all the extra insulation was up in the attic of the house. So I pulled all that down, and I did the doors. So I cut all those pieces, put them in the doors, and that made a huge difference. I do still have some more up there, and I actually have another roll of it that I got from a friend of mine. It's not as thick, and I've been half tempted to take that and just go somewhere on the ceiling and just put it up there.
I mean,
not put it up there. Can't hurt.
it can't hurt. You could even use it like where the beams are, where your exposed beams. Maybe if there's a way you could put it
Little,
over
like-
the beam.
Yeah, I thought about just like making narrow, narrow strips, and then just tape, just cover it and tape
Yeah.
it on, and that'll cover up the beams, and that should make a big difference. And I should have enough to do the big, because the roll is 6 foot by whatever long. I don't remember how long it is. And then the pieces I've probably got enough to do that. I just have to get a bunch of white tape, and then I have to clean it because you know how much dirt's going to be up there. You know, it's bad when you can take a broom and sweep the walls and the ceiling.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like I told you about doing the media when I blasted the Camaro. I blew everything. I swept up everything. I blew out the car. I swept up again. I blew out everything, and there's still pieces on my desk right here. It's all over the place still. There's a little piece right there. So, but you're talking about dust and dirt, and it, yeah.
Yeah, and I did the bottom of the Mustang in here on the rotisserie, and at least on the rotisserie I can just roll it,
Yeah.
and stuff
Let it
falls
fall
out,
out.
and I roll it the other way and stuff falls out.
Yeah.
even after the amount of time I did that, a bunches of times, vacuum it, blow it out, vacuum it, blow it out. There are still little nooks and crannies that catch that stuff. So, even when I did paint it, when you look at, I had to turn it around, and, there's a few spots where they're on the bottom where it's stuck onto this, the surface of the slightly dry paint, but it's on the bottom. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not that big a deal.
Let me see. All right, Bob, I'm late getting here, but I'm here. How are you doing, Robert? How are you doing? How's Robert doing? How's everybody in the room doing? And don't forget the thumbs up. I think we're all doing just fine, Bob.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Yep. I'm ready for fall.
Yeah, I'm ready for fall. Yeah, I think we all are.
Well, I'm ready for towards the end of September when we go on vacation. I'm ready for that time. So
I'm bet. Troy, we're talking nature with Barry and Robert on Joe Daddy's Garage tonight. Yeah, why not? Why not?
You want me to go out and grab a deer? We got bunches of them.
And let me tell you, I saw a deer right outside the shop the other night. I think I sent you a picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is huge. Huge.
There was a not quite as big as yours, but there was one for a Texas deer, because we've got the whitetail, cottontail. There's smaller deer.
Yeah.
That we have here, and it was a good sized buck for here. But
did you say cottontail?
Something. What is it called? I don't know.
I don't know either, but a cottontail's I think a rabbit.
Okay. Hey, they both taste good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deer, Hassenpfeffer, it's all good.
Yeah.
But it's like, they run around here in flocks of 10, 15, 20, and
right.
We've got lots of them. And then with all the houses being built, they're much more mobile now.
Yeah, I don't know what the different breed of deer titles are. I don't know.
I know when we go up north, the deer are much larger up north than the ones that we have here.
Yeah.
Here I call them dog deer because they're about the size of a big dog usually.
Dog deer. Yeah. I mean, that's similar to, here, growing up in Pennsylvania, we had really big deer. And when I, moved here, it was like, oh, I shot this big buck. It was like 120 pounds. And I was like, 120 pounds? That was a baby.
Yeah. I like Rick's idea there. Another good use for a drone.
Oh, yeah. He was saying, Rick was saying, for decorating the Christmas tree, tie the...
Yeah, I like that idea.
I'm trying to see if let me see if I have... I'm gonna send myself this picture.
I'll tell you what was funny is that I don't know, a couple of years ago, one of our cats is orange. Okay, he was outside by the fence, and deer on the other side of the fence. Mama deer had the little ones out there, and Oscar, he's over there by the fence, and Mama deer's looking at him. It's like, why are you over there instead of over here? Because Mama deer's thinking, hey, you're orange. You're the same color as me. You're thought he was a baby deer.
Yeah, that's funny. Let me see if I can.
Trying to get it up on the.
I'm gonna pop it up here. Just give me a second, because I have to click all the buttons.
And then it says you have too many pictures in here. You got to take some out.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to put on Rick's comment. So, okay. So this is the deer that was in the backyard. And let me tell you, if anybody knows deer, you can look at that rack and recognize that is a very young rack on that deer.
You can see the fuzz on it.
Yeah, that's easily, just in its current state, that's a minimum 6 point. But I can't say how big that rack is going to get, but that's a really good sized deer to for somebody hunting.
Yeah, and that's bigger than what we get here. Yeah, it's bigger. It's just a different kind of deer.
Yeah. Yeah, so Rick had said again, tie the string to the or tie the wire, lights to the drone, fly it around the tree. I think I would need a pretty powerful drone to pull that off, because I don't know how if the tree is like 80 feet tall,
And you're going to
you
have
need like 200 feet of
how much string are you going to be hauling up? Yeah.
yeah, 200 feet of lights probably to even make a dent in that. But yeah,
Just get a whole bunch of drones with the lights and then just park them around the tree. And let
yeah,
them
there
fly
you
up there and
go.
turn on and off.
I've seen people do that. That's a pretty impressive show they make.
They, there's a company, I think it's in Dallas, and they do every so often they do one out there just practice stuff, and it'll always be on YouTube on the news thing. The news will put it on their YouTube channel, and it's impressive. I
It
will
is.
say it's not fireworks. It's not the same as fireworks, but it's impressive.
Yeah, now I have like 300 drones flying around making shapes and
Yeah,
choreographed, and it's like
and how quick it is yeah, it's really pretty cool.
yeah. Bob Shoemaker, Bob's running late. I see 90 degrees and feels like 100, so I just walked out of shop since it is nature fighting my progress. Yeah,
We
I'm with
we
you,
were
Bob.
108 both days this week, and heat index was 120 something. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
don't
got
even.
to I got to soak the bushes out here. When I walked out here, I'm looking at them, and all the leaves are shriveling up because it's all sand, so that
Yeah,
dries out super fast.
yeah.
So I want to keep a few things alive.
Troy saying white-tailed deer. I have 14 or 20 in my backyard every day. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I could probably ask my friend Bubba. He knows all about deer, but I would. I've only ever heard deer in the U.S. being called white-tailed deer. Now I know there's mule deer. There's variations, but
Hmm.
I've only reindeer. Obviously, but I only know of white-tailed deer here in the U.S. So I don't know if there's any other variables or not. But
Yeah, that's outside of my
yeah.
yeah.
All right. So what's next on your car? Where you at on the project?
Well, I was trying to, on the rockers, I had to pull a bunch of dents out of those rockers. And I've got a few dents on the roof that I found when I stripped it that were patched before. Well, and I was like, oh, the other day, it's like, oh, I'll mix up some filler. I'll do that. And it's like, it's just setting up as I do it. Because so I'm cutting back on the hardener the next time.
Yeah.
And I finally had a point where I got enough on there, and one spot I started to swipe it. It's going on really nicely, and all of a sudden it just went from spreading beautifully to big chunk. I mean, just like that. So it's like, okay, I'll sand it off and just I'll keep working at it. The filler it doesn't smell so bad and it seals up well. I'll probably bring that one in the house so I can keep it cooler in the house,
Yeah.
and then I'll just bring it out here. But I need to finish those out and get that going. I've kind of thought about since it's probably going to be black, of just and with black's nice because I can paint this, I can paint that, I can paint that. Worst case scenario is if it doesn't look all the same when I put the car together, I can paint it again.
Yeah.
So the thought is why not just go ahead and paint what I have on the rotisserie while it's
Yeah.
there on the
I
rotisserie.
mean, and black is very forgiving, as you know,
Yeah,
especially if you're not adding in metallics and stuff. If you're just
yeah.
black is black,
Just
you're good.
basic, plain old. That's the only word on the color is black. No extra letters, numbers, just
No codes.
yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
So I've kind of thought about that might not be a bad idea. Denial.
See, Bob's in a state of denial normally. I mean, sorry, Robert is in a state of denial. Yeah. So yeah, he's in Texas.
Yeah,
He's,
yeah,
as Charlie has alluded to. Thank you, Charlie. Give you a bell for knowing that.
yeah. We're going to be 100 plus for the next 2 weeks. And it like 3 o'clock in the morning. The other morning, it was 86 degrees at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
At midnight, it's still in the 95.
Yeah.
It's cooled off a little today. Saturday, Sunday was just really bad, but we're paying for last summer at this point. We had a really good summer last summer. We had very few 100-degree days. We had a lot of rain, and then this year, yeah, we're paying for it.
Well, I was just checking on us. The cool temperatures for the day is usually about 73, 74. So, and that's obviously early in the morning. So that doesn't feel bad when you're getting up and getting outside, but like
Yeah,
obviously.
our lows will be basically 80 degrees. Uh, and like I said, and it stays hot, and then it dips right at 5 a.m. And as soon as the sun comes up, it goes straight back up. 9 o'clock in the morning, it'll be 90.
Yeah.
You know, so
I know. I was in the house earlier, and I noticed that we can't cool our house very well anyway, because it's too much volume. It's too big for the AC setup. And I was relaxing on the couch, took a nap, and I felt really comfortable. And I woke up like in about an hour later, and I was like, man, it feels pretty cool in here. The AC's still running.
mm-hmm.
Something's not right. So I went over to the thermostat and I checked it. Thermostat is set to 76. Okay. But it was reading that it was 78 degrees in there. And I'm like, there's no way this is 78 degrees. This is below 76. I know that. Again, I went and got my laser thermometer. Yep. I went all around. Everything in that room was 74 degrees. So I'm like, why is this reading 78? That doesn't make any sense at all. And I still don't know why. We haven't done anything to it.
Is it a mechanical one?
No, it's electronic.
Change the battery.
Well, I took the batteries all the way out, and the batteries are like a backup.
They're not even. Okay. Never mind then. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was all stayed on, all stayed lit. I was like, well, it's not that.
Yeah, so maybe.
Anyway, I kept adjusting it up and down until I got the AC to shut off. DCR Racing Garage. How's it going, fellas? Or DRC, not DCR. Sorry, DRC. So something DRC Racing Garage. It's going pretty good. It's hot. We're getting through it. But glad you're here. I haven't seen you here before. Heather Frank says hello. Hello. Give you a bell. And Andy, speaking of paint, when you're installing a quarter panel, do you typically just leave the E-coat on the inside of the panel, or do you hit it with a layer of epoxy primer or top coat? For me, I just leave the E-coat on it. It doesn't seem like there's any reason to try to take all that off. I'll go back to the idea that these cars are not daily drivers. These cars are kept in the garage or in a storage facility. Most of us just drive it on a weekend or once in a while, and so they're not exposed to the same type of weather that they were when they were new. And I don't see any value in trying to take all that stuff off and starting over. So I don't even put epoxy on, because epoxy is meant to go to bare metal. So if you were to cover up the E-coat with epoxy, you're not benefiting anything, in my opinion. So what do you think, Robert?
I mean, I'm the same way. It's just all I did. I put sound deadening on mine.
Yeah.
Before as I had the quarter panel just sitting there, before I put it on, after I had it somewhat fit, cover the whole thing with that stick-on sound deadening, and then I put it on. So, but yeah, I'm not painting the inside. Don't plan to.
No.
It's again, it's going to outlast me and the next guy.
Well, see, really. All I did, when I painted Jade, I did take Scotch-Brite and scuff all that inside the quarter. I had sprayed it with primer just to get it the right shade of color that I wanted, which was gray. And then pretty sure I scuffed all that again. And then when I painted, I just blew color in there. I wasn't clear coating it or anything. I just turned it green, green, aqua, and just to make it, match. Now that's if you look at a factory car, like they would have painted, of course they used single stage back then. The gas tank would have been out, and they would have sprayed the floor pan and the trunk. They would have sprayed most of the inside of the panels with color,
and they also put the sound deadening stuff that they sprayed on.
Yeah.
That liquid stuff, I don't know what they used back then, but it's like the 3M stuff.
It was probably just a tar.
It's
you
some kind of
know,
toxic waste that somebody paid them to get rid of, and they just spray it inside the car and then blow some paint on it and call it done.
yeah,
But those little cubby holes on both sides there. I don't like that because that's a place where things can go sliding and run right into the quarter panel. So I'm going to make some kind of little little thing to go in here with a little, a, I guess a shelf inside, and then like a little hatch or something in front of it, and connect that to the flange.
the
Just
wheelhouse flange.
yeah, the flange of the wheelhouse, and then do some
Well,
kind of,
did you see what Wally did with his convertible?
No, I didn't see it. I have to go back and check that.
He built
I
a speaker
missed that.
box. He built a
Okay.
sub box that he built it to fit in that space,
Oh yeah, because
and
you could. Yeah.
that way he didn't have to. Nothing could get past it,
Hmm.
and he basically made it fit that opening. So I mean, something like that may work as well.
See now, if I had done that before I put the quarter panel on, I could have made a really big one to go in there and made it that much more complicated.
Yeah, exactly. Um,
But no, it's not a bad idea. Yeah.
no, no, but yeah, as far as the answer on that, no, don't need to add anything. Just prep it for paint and get the color on it to make it look good. Um, Doyle, have you guys ever worked with a rust converter? What was the result? Did you paint over it? I have used different types of rust converter. I don't know what you've used, if anything.
I mean, I've used what is it, the Permatex stuff in the past.
I'm gonna
Um,
grab some stuff that I have.
and then I've also used just phosphoric acid. Uh, but when I do the phosphoric acid, I'm not the biggest fan of it. That's something that I would use in a hard to get to spot that I can't blast and I can't sand, because you still have to rough that up afterwards to remove the. There is a coating that leaves behind that on after it eats away at the rust. You still got to rough it up some, but I'll use that, but sparingly. I tend to prefer. I like to bring as much down to bare metal as I can and epoxy it, and that's why people always ask me, "Do you use POR 15 for stuff?" It's like, no, not really, because that's I don't. I see that as a band aid for an area that I can't prep properly. That's kind of what I see that for.
Right.
And it's kind of the same with the phosphoric acid. If I can't get in there and really clean it the way I want to, I'll use phosphoric acid in that area, and then somehow with a wire brush, and then coat it with something. That's kind of my thinking. I try to use it sparingly, and only when I have to.
Right. Well, I have in the past. Um, I've used some of this stuff,
Hmm.
Rust Seal,
Yeah, the SEM stuff. Yeah.
SEM
Yep.
39304, neutralizes rust and forms a permanent black coating. So I have used this
It's phosphoric acid.
phosphoric acid.
Yeah, naval jelly. Yep, I've seen that, but I have not used it.
So there's rust dissolver naval jelly. I've used this on the Camaro, and I showed that in a demonstration video. I have not tried this. I've had people tell me this works, but I have not tried this CLK
Now,
or CLR. Sorry, CLR.
I've used it for cleaning the faucets from the hard
Right.
water, because our water is super hard.
Yeah. So I've not tried this, but I did buy some just to kind of have it in my
I've never thought
inventory.
of using that on the car.
Yeah, I've heard it was somebody's used it, but I don't know.
Yeah, that never came to mind.
Now, let me tell you though, this stuff right here,
Mhm.
3X rust dissolver. Okay, I have a video on this. I've used it on Jade. I prepped the roof on it because the whole roof was surface rust. This thing, I put this on and basically let it sit and washed it off with water, and it almost made it look like raw metal, like it was back to that kind of condition.
Hmm.
The problem is finding this, because I bought this at Summit, I think it was.
Okay.
And people have looked online, and it'll say not in stock, unavailable, blah blah blah. I've got probably about that much still in here that I'm holding on to. Now, what's in it? Let me see if I have. It doesn't actually tell you. It just tells you, precautionary statements. You can use it. You can brush it on. You can immerse it. You can use a pump system, spray it on. Once rust is removed, rinse item well with water, then dry. Item is now ready for immediate priming or top coating. So,
I'm assuming that's another phosphoric acid base, but then again, you can add other stuff to it. It's not just the phosphoric; it's whatever else they put in there to,
yeah.
the other chemicals that they put in that makes the difference.
So, I mean, I still want to try the CLR. I have not tried it yet.
That's a first for me. I want to know how that turns out because I've never even heard of it.
I may have to do an experiment on something and just see what happens. So, let me go back up here. Ed, the issue with the house and Jade's temp is your laser thermometer both reading too cool. Yeah, I wish that was the case. I'll give you a bell for that though, Ed, but I wish that was the case. Rick was told body shop paid $30,000 for a welder. What makes a welder worth that? Well, it makes it worth it when you can write it off on your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they didn't pay $30,000. I don't know of a welder on the planet that would sell for $30,000. Not for car work, not for auto body stuff.
Other than a really big water-cooled industrial spot welder.
But I couldn't imagine that would have to be in
like production type.
Production. Yeah, that'd be a robotic.
Yeah.
That's not going to be something somebody used at a body shop.
Yeah, because now we had bought a spot welder for the high school shop years ago. A nice Miller one. A nice water-cooled Miller one on a stand, and that's where when you see the little Harbor Freight ones and the little ones, people always say, "Oh, get that for doing body work." Well, that big. At the time, that was a $2,000 spot welder, water cooled, big tongs. It was a big unit. It didn't have enough oomph to really weld body panels adequately. You could stick them together, but you were not going to get what you want. A satisfactory weld on an auto body panel, not at the diameter that you need. That's the trick. It's like, oh yeah, I can put a smaller tip on there and I can get a good weld, but you need, I forget what it is. It's at least 3/16. 3/16, quarter inch, sometimes bigger. You're not going to do that with even a $2,000 spot welder. Right. And then the clamping pressure that you need to really hold it together. And, I would love to do it with a spot welder, but.
Yeah. Well, the thing, like he's asking a question there, I don't know if anybody's watched the TV series Ozark. I've watched some of it. And it's all about money laundering and drug cartels and all that stuff. That could be money laundering.
I watched the first bit of it with the other half and the daughter back when it first came out. It wasn't bad, and then I just never kept watching it. So
yeah, my wife was into it, and I was like, "Do they ever have a good day? I don't. They never. There's nothing good that happens." And I'm like, I just want to go to bed. Let's see. Jeff, I started on a floorboard replacement of my 80 Firebird the other day, and from the factory, some worker put 3 layers of sound deadener under the gas pedal. No way that car ever hit wide open throttle. That's
and I tell you that I will say on a lot of the GM cars with a throttle cable in the 70s and 80s, the vast majority of them never hit wide open throttle, even if you took everything out from underneath it. And the cable just did not allow you to pull it tight enough to go to full throttle in most cases. Yeah. And I think that was probably done on purpose because if it doesn't go to wide open throttle, nothing's going to bind and break. Yeah. But that's, and I would take, the little cable stops that you use like on a bicycle.
Yeah.
It's like just a little, it's a pin. It's a pin with a screw that goes in it.
Yeah.
Or if you take and cut a 45 into the hole, you could slip that over the cable and then tighten it back down and then use that up and down the cable to adjust it. So you could make a non-adjustable cable adjustable by doing that.
I get that.
And it worked pretty good. But, but out of the factory, they weren't even close a lot of times.
Well, that kind of goes with the theory that I have, and I'm sure their government has regulations on all this, but what's to say that your car, when it comes out of the factory, that the tires and everything they put on it can regulate it to, whatever it does, 55 miles an hour, and it's dead on perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or could it be 1 to 2 tenths, not tenths, but let's say percentages, where it actually reads faster than what you're going?
Yeah,
Right?
because I think they're allowed like 10%, but I could see some backdoor stuff saying, "Hey, fudge them all this direction for us."
Well,
I
because
could see that
if
going
you
on.
have a 100,000-mile warranty, the sooner that car gets to 100,000 miles, the better off the insurance or the company is, right?
Yeah.
So in the meantime, you're thinking, I'm getting great mileage, I'm
Mm-hmm.
getting, all this stuff, when really it's just they just tweak it just enough to where they might cut
Yeah.
5,000 miles off the warranty or something. Who
Yeah.
knows?
It's just like when they lighten up a car, the gas mileage goes up a teensy little bit, but it's across a whole fleet and it adds up. Every ounce per vehicle adds up across,
Sure.
thousands and thousands of cars.
Very, very
Yeah,
true.
those little things add up.
So Charlie says a good high-end spot welder could run that high. Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I could definitely see that on it
If
because like I said, that $2,000 one
Well,
was
when
it was
when Rick
nice.
said it, when Rick said welder, to me I'm thinking TIG, MIG, something along
Mhm.
those lines. I have not investigated any kind of spot welder, so
No, I mean other than that I'd like to have one of those little hundred and something dollar ones because there are times to just be like I just want to stick these things together just to hold things just enough of a zap
yeah.
or to make little stuff just other stuff shop stuff you know
Well, Roger says, remember my Dakota? The speedo was high. You caught it when you followed me. Yeah, I don't remember specifically, but it does kind of come to mind a little bit there. Because you get behind, you're following somebody, and you're like, hey, why aren't you going the speed limit?
Well,
Or
and
you
you were
know,
talking about the gas gauge, and it's when you're talking about having to recalibrate it for that. It's like okay, I know GM is 0 to 90, and Ford is 37 to 85 or some off the wall number. I don't understand that one, but
right?
I do know the nice thing with GM is you disconnect it. You can test it by disconnecting it and grounding it. You don't do that on a Ford. The Ford ones don't like it when you do that because
Okay.
the way the
Well, I think if you, like my friend was saying, if you just unplug it,
yeah.
it should do something, right?
Yeah, but if you ground it out on a Ford, you can cause damage to the gauge itself
Okay.
on,
We'll
on a
see.
regular gauge.
On a regular gauge.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, this thing, it wasn't reading anything. And I was like, well, I just thought because it's a Ford cluster in a Mustang that they should know that it belongs to this car.
You'd think it would be set up already for that. It's like, okay, we're putting it in here. It's like, okay, well, plug your little thing in here and it goes into this and,
Yeah, and I wonder, give me just a minute. I'll go grab the instructions so you can talk about something.
well, but also the other issue is that, if you're using Dakota, they don't know what engine you're putting in it. They don't know what fuel tank because if you're putting a fuel cell in it, it's going to be a GM sender, so it's going to be 0 to 90. If you're putting it in something, you put a GM engine in there, you're going to have similar issues with the temperature gauge and pressure gauges and all that because they're all going to be set up for their for the GM numbers, not for the Ford. I think we lost him. There he is.
So, instruction books are apparently valuable. But this thing has, all these options on the menu over here on this page.
Mm-hmm.
You got a speed, tack, volt, water, oil, fuel, lighting. I don't know what BIM is. Displays, info, set odometer, different things like that. And then there's a sequence you go through for cycling it. There's a way to set because I had to set the speedometer for the car because you could have different size tires on, like you were saying earlier. You don't know what's engine or whatever.
Yeah, if you even have the right speedometer gears in it.
So what I did with this system, which is cool, you can measure off a mile somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Which I took my little Honda Fit and I drove a mile. I registered where the mile is. And then I took the Mustang, and you go through the button. You have to like get it to whatever the sequence thing is. You hit it. You drive your mile. When you hit the mile, you hit the button again. It's calibrated.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it took. So that was actually fairly easy. This stuff even has like a service countdown meter. You can if you want to have so many miles or whatever, you can program it.
I didn't realize it had that much, additional stuff.
Yeah, it's got there's a clock in it too. There's on in the cluster. Then it has like RPM speed warning, tach signal, tachometer setup, engine cylinder setup, and then voltage setup, water temperature setup. Which, again, all it really lets you do is register that they only use one sending unit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you can really do anything.
Yeah.
But apparently you can do things with the oil pressure sensor. Where's the one? The fuel. Oh, so here you go. This is what I was talking about. Okay, I don't know if you can read all that or not.
I can't read it. I can't read it, but I can understand. I've seen enough of that kind of stuff to get the gist of
So
what
it says for fuel setup, you have to select your sender type. And the first one says Chrysler, typically Ford 73-10.
Mm-hmm.
And the code on the menu is F10, and then it tells you the ohm rating for each one of these for empty and full.
Mm-hmm.
So then it has GM 0 to 30, GM 0 to 90, GM 40 to 250, and that's based on 60s, 60 to 90s,
Mm-hmm.
and late 90s. 63 to 67 Corvette has its own special bracket. And then Ford says 73-10, earlier to, it's written weird, but it says earlier to late 80s. And then the next one says late 80s and later. Kind of weird how they wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
And then apparently you can have an SW Sun 33-240, which must be like your own, like an independent type of sensor, not a factory style. So
the sun gauges, yeah.
Yeah. So and there's a VDO gauge too, or VDO sensor. So once I punched in the right code, it popped right up. I'm like, oh, fantastic. And then it gives you all, like I said, you go through the screen and it gives you this GM30, GM90, F10, F150 codes that you need to put in. And you can even have, there's a custom fuel sender curve setup. So you can actually do some sort of other calibrations with the sending unit, whatever. And then this is cool too. I have not played with this yet, but it has a lighting setup. So you can apparently adjust the bright or dim on it. It says I don't know what it's talking about. If you're ever using a separate DIM1, so if you have a separate dim knob, you can program it to that. So
it's separate from your headlight dimmer, your standard dimmer, yeah.
So apparently you may be able to calculate this with your. I'm not going to read it all, but it says you can set it to level brightness for nighttime driving, daytime driving. So I don't know if it sets it up with the clock or not. But there's all kinds of stuff in here that really.
Now, do those gauges, when you turn it on, do they just go where they are, or or the ones that go there and back?
They cycle. They go.
Yeah.
Yep.
At least you know what. Oh, that one's not moving. There's something wrong with it. I do like that.
Yeah. Let me see what else we have going on. Okay, Robert, I was wondering, do you have any leads on a car or a classic coming out of Texas? I got a friend of mine looking to get in the classics.
I will tell you that for the most part, most of the cars are gone. The vast majority of the project cars, they disappeared really quickly, especially in the 90s. A lot of cars just disappeared in the 90s. And the sad thing is, I can find more classic cars for sale up north now than I can here. It's because they are Texas cars that were taken out of Texas and they went north.
Yep.
It's just the way it is. There are some here. If you're looking for something particular, shoot me an email and I'll keep an eye out. But I don't do the Facebook thing, so that yeah, a lot of stuff I don't see. So,
Yeah.
but I can always keep an eye out. And the first swap meet we have of the year in was it February? Generally has that's the one that will generally have actually good project cars for fair prices.
Yeah.
Was it 2 or 3 years ago? They had I was looking. I'd like a 70 El Camino, and there were surprisingly there were like 3 or 4. I think most of them were like 71, 72s, and some of those were like $3,000-4,000 for a project car, and they were not bad cars.
Okay.
You know, for up north they were awesome cars, but even for here they were not bad, not a bad car at all. But that was coming off of what they were a couple of years ago, and a car like that would have been selling for 7-8 grand at the time, for a project car. But there had been kind of a dip in value there for a while. Now we're starting to see it's kind of everything's a mess like everything else now. But a couple of years ago there was the high prices had all kind of leveled out and gone away.
Right.
And but if I know what you're looking for, I can keep an eye out. Yeah, I'll look.
So
Like I said,
what's your email?
The Infernal Craftsman at Gmail. It's the same
Okay.
as my channel, just at
Yeah,
Gmail.
the infernalcraftsman at gmail.com. Okay.
Yeah, and just shoot me an email and tell me what you're looking for. What kind of car you're looking for, and I'll just keep an eye out. Not that I'm saying I got to find something, but
Sure.
if I see something, I'll let you know.
Well, like I talked about, I don't know if I talked about it last week or not. Maybe I did. But I ran into a guy who had a 67 Mustang, 6-cylinder car. No, really like 90, I'll say 92% rust free.
Mm-hmm.
Car only had like 60,000 miles on it.
Mm.
And it was solid. There was a little bit of rust on one of the quarters and a little bit at both front doors where it just started the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
But the inside structure of the door, everything was solid. And he wanted like 10 grand for that thing or something. So there's still stuff out there, but
Yeah.
you may not get the dream car. You may have to take one and make it into your dream car. So,
Yeah, and there was one that popped up the other. And every so often I'll find a 5.6 Mustang bare shell, a beat up bare shell. I can get something like that. I see them from time to time for $300 to $500, but it's just a bare shell.
yeah,
Sometimes you'll get a rear end with it, but just be prepared for front suspension to be gone. You're gonna have to repair stuff, whatever, because they'll rip stuff off and probably screw up the shock
Well,
time when they
as
do
long
it.
as it has a VIN number.
Exactly, and it's if I'd rather I wouldn't mind another one of those for something, but I'd rather have a 7 or 8.
Oh yeah,
I would rather
Yeah.
have a 7 or 8. If I could find one like that, then it'd be like I'd have to buy it, put it on the trailer, haul it up to my friend's place, and put it out at his property, and hide it out there.
yeah. Doyle says I used some rust cutter on the cross member on rear frame. It seemed to work well. It is now black. It is phosphoric acid. After I rinsed it off, it looks ready to paint. I plan to use it on that area. Okay. Yeah, that's the idea of it. Is a phosphoric
Mm-hmm.
acid treats it, and then you can add.
And
You're supposed to be able to prime it. So
yeah, and the marine industry uses phosphoric acid because a lot of them don't dry blast anymore because they can't. So they'll wet blast, they'll let it surface rust. Then they'll hit it with phosphoric acid. You brush it off, prime it, paint it, call it done.
yeah. Ed Cucciarella, any suggestions on removing butyl rubber dum-dum tape? Super sticky. I was going to try dry ice. Heat made it more sticky and no good solvents in California.
Acetone, I'll soak it with acetone, but the problem is it evaporates so fast while you're doing it, but it will
Yeah.
get rid of the residue that's behind. But like when I do it, if like on the roof rail seals, the black the strip disc, the word is just gone.
Oh, you're talking about the abrasive disc from Harbor Freight?
Yeah, the black convoluted thing,
Yeah.
the loose sponge thing, and I'll get the ones on a drill because those work better to get in there, and that's what I use. It works for me, but I like to scrape out as much as I can to start with
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
going to beer feel anyway. So I don't care what happens.
Yeah. Like in talking about the butyl, my suggestion is probably going to be, you know, a good putty knife that you can get underneath it as much as you can and get as much off first.
If you're doing around the windshield and front and rear glass, the stuff they put in there, naphtha works really well if you can get naphtha. Which California, I don't know if you can get it or not,
Yeah,
but that
probably not.
because that's what I used on the windshield was to get that goopy stuff off. And somebody come over, looked at it, and he said, "Man, how'd you get that off there?" A rag and naphtha, soak it, and just keep rag, not paper towel, rag because it's rough. It doesn't
Yeah.
wear out. Just just wipe it off.
Charlie says, Ed, how about WD-40?
Hmm.
I've never tried WD-40 in that instance, but it may work. I don't know.
Keep trying things till you find something that works. Goof off maybe.
Maybe.
For an adhesive, but I don't know if it's as good as it used to be.
Right. Rick says you might try either acetone or isopropyl alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, those are options.
Yep.
Jeff McKinsey, Ed, a chisel. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just get the remnants off with whatever you can find.
And Bob says Barrett should tell him to buy that Camaro you're building. Yeah, that would. I mean, it's going to be for sale once I get all the metal straight and figured out, and make it right. It'll be for sale. So.
Well, and most people don't want to do that metal work. Most people would like to have just a shell that they could, because they don't want to do the welding, they don't want to do the body work. They just want to assemble the car essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know how much actual body work I want to do at this point. I mean, I want to do all the sheet metal and be happy with it.
I would say as long as it's in the ballpark, yeah, let it go, because it's not like you're going to have big dents or anything anywhere.
No. It would have to be finished work, like seam sealed, and there's going to be places where it's not going to match perfect. We know that. Even if you have perfect panels, there's still some sort of transition that's not dead on.
Yeah.
It might take a little filler to transition it in, but yeah, I'm all about doing the sheet metal.
And then if somebody does buy it, they don't, if they take it to a body shop and have it painted, body shop's like, well, I don't want to paint on top of somebody else's work. I'll do the filler, I'll do this, because they don't, the drill. Yeah,
I know. Andrew, my alternator is getting extremely hot, not produce very much power, and has so much resistance that the belt squeals at every RPM except idle. Any suggestions?
Regulators bad. Regulators or diodes are bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what you might do at this point, depending on where you're at with what you want to do, like I have not put it on yet, but I have a 1-wire alternator that I'm going to put on Jade,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a higher amperage. And so it eliminates your regulator. It's all built in.
Mm-hmm.
So you may want to look at something like that if you want to get away from that combination, of the regulator. And the thing is, you don't even have to cut your wires. My understanding is you can just unplug the regulator, hook up the 1-wire alternator, and leave everything in place. You don't have to cut and modify anything. So you may need to, I would say, replace the alternator. Well, if it's the regulator, that's one thing. And this is where it gets to be a challenge. You're like, is it the alternator? Is it the regulator?
And that's where, again, I would go just like you and go with the 1-wire alternator. I have one item that can go bad now instead of two, and I don't have to diagnose them individually. I put it in there, and then you'll have more amperage on top of that. But I do like the old mechanical ones, because you could actually go in there and tweak them and raise your charging voltage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can go in and you can actually adjust them. Take the cover off. But some of them had a hole in the bottom.
Yeah.
But you could take the cover off on the ones that didn't. You could actually go in there and adjust it. You could bump up your charging voltage if you wanted to. So if it was too low at idle, you could actually bump it up a little bit. Huh. But you had to make sure you didn't go so far that when it was on the when you revved it
on
up
the high end,
it too high.
Yeah. It says I did a great job waterproofing my bed plate on the Ranchero, but had to get back under there for a shock issue.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Do you need to? Well, do you use butyl? Because if it's butyl, that's when I think of. Well, let me think here.
I'm thinking like the strip butyl. When I'm thinking butyl,
Yeah.
the
Oh, I'm
non-hardened,
thinking
or even
urethane. I'm thinking urethane.
yeah,
Well, if
or
it's
even the
butyl,
liquid.
once you pull it out, fix your issue, put it back down.
Yeah,
I wouldn't clean it all out.
no,
I mean, if anything, maybe get a thin roll of a new piece.
yep.
'Cause they sell in different widths. Just get the, I don't know, 1/8 inch or 3/16
Hmm.
strip, put it back in there, and just put it back down.
That's
Why
what I
even
do.
clean it out? You don't get anything.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
So at least on the El Camino, I don't have to do that. They're in the back on the frame.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny how the different manufacturers approach these things. We've talked about the Camaro and how related to the Mustang. Let's say how overbuilt it is. And
Hmm.
yet it has a front subframe on it.
And and I have to give, and a lot of the GM cars were that way versus the Ford. The Chryslers, I'm not as familiar with the Chryslers enough to remember stuff off the top of my head, but because those things might as well not exist because they're so rare anyway. So, but I look at it, but GM had a kind of a leg ahead of everybody else because they bought Fisher Body. Because they had Fisher was making the bodies and they did an excellent job, or many years ago, and GM eventually bought them. So they had a separate entity designing bodies still that they brought into the company instead of it all being done under the same group.
Right.
So that's where these guys, they made a body. That's what they did. That's what they knew how to do, and they did a good job of integrating that at the time and keeping keeping that going there. Whereas Ford, they were still kind of hurting from the decline after World War II. And they didn't have the all the money to put into the research and development, so they were just kind of going along till the Mustang came out. The Mustang, really saved them. I
Yeah.
mean, it really made a huge difference with them. And then again with the Mustang too, did the same thing again. Funny enough, I know we don't like it, but again, it was another one of those where when they got the Mustang too, it was a boom for the company.
Right. So it was all Lee Iacocca, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The
and
founder, the
and
creator
then
of the minivan and the K car.
yeah, he tried to do a minivan at Ford. Ford said, no, 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 no. That's just not going to work. So he, jumped ship, went to Chrysler, and Chrysler, he did it at Chrysler, and it's like, and then Ford's like, oh, hey, we need one of those too.
Yeah.
And then we ended up with the Windstar.
Yeah. The wedge.
Did you ever change spark plugs on one?
No.
There was access holes in and inside. I forget. It's been so long since I've done it, but inside the cabin, you pull the carpet up, and there were access panels in the floor that you could get into the spark plugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
No
was
thanks.
not a fun car.
Mr. Fireman just ordered foam board insulation for my shop doors. This live chat is getting expensive. So he's going to insulate his doors, much like you
Nice.
did, I guess.
Well, and speaking of foam, I thought about one time, I could just cover the whole ceiling with sheets of foam. And I was like, yeah, no, the
Well,
spacing doesn't work. Yeah,
the
but
spray foam.
remember that's frame there. There's nothing up here. There's nothing up here. It's clear span. So it's not like wood framing. There's just nothing to attach to.
I don't know that matters. I mean,
Well, I've got 5 feet by 10-foot open areas with
okay.
nothing in between.
Yeah.
And if I do spray foam, I actually looked at having it done, just have them come out and spray it. Well, first of all, I have to take everything out.
Yep.
And then I have to cut out all the existing
Yep.
fiberglass. Then I got to make sure all the wiring, all the stuff that I want is in and done, which that's going to change.
Yeah.
And then we're talking now this is before the chemical prices started going up. It would be about $6.5 grand to have that done. And my thing is like, for 6 grand, I can buy a bunch of solar panels, throw them on the roof and an inverter, and just have more air conditioning. It's cheaper to have more air conditioning than it is to insulate in that case.
That's true. Yeah.
Sadly enough, and fortunately, I can get panels cheap here. So
Well, and that's,
that's
well,
into that link.
I know you. I haven't looked at those links you sent me, but I know I was mentioning to you about this company that sells these solar generators,
Hmm.
and I'm really looking at maybe getting one of those just to power things. Like not.
Hmm.
It, here's the thing. Okay, a few years ago we lost electricity, right? I pulled out my gas generator, tried to start it, it wouldn't start. I had to
Hmm.
take the carburetor apart, clean it all up, go through all the steps, do that like 3 times until I could get it to actually run. And then I could run like the refrigerator and the freezer and a couple of lights. I couldn't run the whole house, and I don't plan to run the
Hmm.
whole house. But what happens when there's no gas?
Yep.
Then what? Then you
Yep.
do have a generator that doesn't do any good.
But I
So
do know
these,
I do know a guy that made a video on how to put a propane and natural gas carburetor on their generator.
well,
I know somebody that did that.
you that's an option. That
and
is an
and
option.
and now fortunately we've got natural gas, and I can easily hook it up to that.
Right.
But then again, natural gas is going through the roof too,
It's same
and
thing.
and
So
yeah, and I would like to have one of those. Any one of those. There's a dozen different brands.
there's a
I'd like to
variety
have
of
one of those.
companies out there right now.
And then do like that. I sent you the link to that video that guy did, and you use those. There's the better solar panels to charge it. The bigger ones,
Yeah.
and he's running a window unit off of his.
Yeah.
You know, and
So, yeah, I mean, what's the cost comparison as far as that goes? You pay for the product, and then you have to use
yeah,
how long till it pays for itself, basically.
yeah,
But
yeah,
my strategy is, if I don't have gas, I can't get. I mean, if I don't have a generator, I can't get water out of my house. I can't keep my refrigerator running. There's
Oh,
nothing.
I didn't realize you had a well.
Yeah, I've got a well.
Oh, okay. I
So
didn't realize that.
I've got a deep well. Yeah, it's like 175 feet.
Oh,
Um,
it's a little deeper than mine.
so the thing is, now what? I don't have water. So I'm really thinking about getting one of these. I think it's Blue Eddy is the one I'm looking at.
Hmm.
Um, just as a backup to where power goes out, no gas. Well, guess what? The sun's still shining. I'll put my panel up and get the sun to
Yeah.
give me some
There,
power. So
there is another one from Renogy, which they do solar stuff, but basically it's a big box, and just consider it a really big UPS. Like a battery backup for a computer. It's a really
yeah,
big one of those. You can wire those into the panels, and you can hook them up to solar for charging, and 'cause it'll charge off of solar or the grid, just to make sure it's topped up all the time, and then you've got power for when you need it. And I believe they've got different ones, and I think one of them was like 3,000 watt,
okay,
which is pretty decent. That's a pretty decent one, and it's a good sized battery, but they're a lot more expensive. That's kind of putting you into like that's more like a commercial type of
yeah.
kind of built kind of thing than the other ones. But yeah, and I definitely agree that that would be something really nice to have.
Oh, and I have seen where they have the Tesla units where you can put in your house.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know what
and
that's that cost.
yeah, but there's more and more of those options out there that
Right.
as it's just becoming more common.
But I'm looking at it like survival mode. I just need something that I can get water. I can turn the lights on. I can keep my food cold in the fridge. That's all
Yeah,
I got to worry about.
and it's like worst case is even if it's not that big, well, when I need to run the well, I can unplug the fridge.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
However, fridge doesn't. Once it's started up, they pull very little. They
Yeah.
run constantly. I mean, they basically never shut off, but they don't use much electricity.
Right. So Auto Salvage Outlaw says hello. I'm going to say hello to you as well.
That's a new one. I don't remember that one.
I think I've seen him here before. My mind is saying New Zealand, but I may be wrong. I may be wrong. I
I'm
can't
not.
tell.
I'm trying to look at the picture and see what that
Yeah, it
is.
looks like a dent side Ford is what it looks
Yeah,
like to me.
yeah. And they could be Australia, New Zealand because they had them there.
Yeah, but I don't know
drive
for
on the
sure.
wrong side of the road, but
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Oh,
I think we're coming to a close.
yeah,
It's
and I'm starting to sweat too much now. But hey, it's down to 86 in here.
okay. So he says, yes, I've been here before from Bama. Oh well, I was close.
Oh,
New
okay.
Zealand, Alabama. That's close. That's close. Almost the same thing. Well, I'm glad you're here, but I think we're going to call it a night. I need to get
Yeah.
in the house and get something to eat.
Yep.
Uh,
And
but it's been good. You know, we had a good conversation. Nice to talk about a variety of things, and hey, keep
yep.
people interested, right?
Yep. And see you later. And everybody else, have a good night.
All right. Thanks again for being here. See you.
See ya.
Okay. Well, that was fun. It's always nice to have Robert on the live stream. Always has good information to share. We've had some good subject matter to talk about, and hopefully we got some information out there maybe help you with your project. If not, well, maybe next time we can do something. But thank you for being here, and we'll be back on Monday night at 7. But until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.